morning, everyone. Today's a happy day for us. We are going to celebrate the wedding of Barbara Lee, who got married on New Year's Day, or New Year's Eve, I guess it was, in California. But today we'll celebrate her wedding in Washington, D.C. I convey that to you because it is a source of joy to us, as she is a source of joy in her service to the country, and her personal happiness is lovely. In any event, here we are. We've got the ayes in Iran impeachment. Let me start with Iran. Today we will have a resolution on the floor put forth by Congresswoman Elissa Slotkin. We're very proud of her experience in terms of national security under Democratic and Republican presidents, now a member of Congress, putting forth a resolution this week. Last week, in our view, the administration conducted a provocative, disproportionate airstrike against Iran, which endangered Americans, and did so without consulting Congress. When I was informed of this attack, the administration took responsibility for it over the weekend. I said, why did you not consult with Congress? Well, we held it in closely. We held it in closely. No, you have a responsibility to consult with Congress. No, we held it close. So whoever close means, as you see, there has been criticism from the Republicans about the briefing that was put forth yesterday by the administration on this subject. Some have asked, do you agree that this is the worst intelligence classified briefing that Congress has received from this administration? As some of you have heard me say, there is stiff competition for that designation of worst. So here we are to protect American lives and values. We are passing today a war powers resolution to limit the president's military actions. The administration must de-escalate and must prevent further violence. America and the world cannot afford war. Some of you have heard me say that in December I took a bipartisan delegation to the 75th anniversary of the Battle of the Bulge. It was just so remarkable to meet our VIPs, were our veterans who served at the Battle of the Bulge, some of them also at Normandy. Imagine the courage, teenagers, most of them at the time. But the compelling message from the veteran who spoke for them, along with the King of Belgium and the Archduke of Luxembourg and the President of Germany. The veteran who spoke, he spoke about the band of brothers. He spoke about allies working together, multilateralism. He spoke about the challenges they faced in those winters, reminding me really of Washington crossing the Delaware, because it was in December and it was snowing and they were not as prepared for snow and camouflage from snow as they needed to be. But just seeing their patriotism, their courage, those young people, and this veteran coming to speak for them, 90-some years old. At the end of his remarks, he said, I just have one message, and I don't know if it's appropriate to say, but I will. Pray for peace. Pray for peace. That's what we all do. Protecting the American people is our first responsibility. Protect and defend, an oath we take, not only of our Constitution, but of the American people. Pray for peace. That's what we must do. And so what happened, in the view of many of us, is not promoting peace, but an escalation. Not that we have any confidence in the goodness or the good intentions of Iran. And we certainly do not respect, and I, from my intelligence background, know just how bad Soleimani was. It's not because we expect good things from them, but we expect great things from us. Now, in terms of impeachment, you will keep asking me the same question. I keep giving you the same answer. As I said right from the start, we need to see the arena in which we are sending our managers. Is that too much to ask? In October, we put forth H.R. 660, which is House resolution, which talked about the terms under which we would proceed further to further proceed with the investigation, so that people knew what the battlefield would look like. We expect to see that here. I hear different things. I hear that they might want to, you've probably heard one way or another, some of them have suggested they might want to dismiss. Dismiss equals cover-up. Dismiss equals admission that you're afraid of the facts, the truth, the witnesses, and the documentation. We would have hoped that, as with the Clinton process, that there would have been a bipartisan resolution determining how to proceed. Contrary to what the majority leader says, he says this is like the Clinton. No, it's not at all. And I sent our members yesterday 6 points in which it is, 6 of the points in which it is different. But nonetheless, at some point, we would hope that we would see from them what the terms of engagement will be. We are ready. We are proud of our defense of the Constitution of the United States. We are concerned that the senators will not be able to live up to the oath that they must take to have an impartial trial. So much for that. At the same time as this is all going on, it's important to note that there's so many other things of concern to the American people. One is the assault on the Affordable Care Act that this administration is engaged in the courts, in the Congress, and we are fighting them in the courts, in the Congress, and in the country. But right now, they are in the court. Instead of defending the law of the land, as is the responsibility of the Justice Department, this administration is fighting the law of the land. That means benefit for pre-existing conditions, no lifetime limits or annual limits, child staying on your policy till 26, being a woman, no longer being a pre-existing condition. The list goes on and on that they want to tear down. So with all of the other, shall we say, distractions going on, which are a collateral benefit to the administration because it is a distraction, as they are masterful at, of what's going on. In addition to that, and related to health, is the statement from the administration that they're no longer going to enforce the NEPA, the National Environmental Protection Act. This means more polluters will be right there next to the water supply of our children. That's a public health issue. That they are, in their denial of climate, they are going to not use the climate issue as anything to do with environmental decision-making. Public should know this. Denial about the climate crisis in the midst of fires in Australia, and we have them in our own country. And then I'll close by just talking about how proud we are of the work that our members have done for the people. We have moved to lower health care costs by lowering the cost of prescription drugs. H.R. 3, wildly popular in the country, hopefully went past the House before we left. We also were proud to pass the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement, which is sitting over in the Senate. It's sitting over there with maybe 400 bills we've sent over, more than 275 of them bipartisan legislation. One of them we observed yesterday, the 9th anniversary of the assault on Gabby Gifford's life. This is a bullet that I wear. That's of the highest priority, because if they would pass this bill, it would save lives, the bill to have sensible background check legislation. So again, we're proud of our legislative agenda to lower health care costs, keep the American people safe, build bigger paychecks by building infrastructure. And this coming week, in the next period of time, our chairman, led by Chairman DeFazio of the Infrastructure and Transportation Committee, will be putting forth our most current initiative on the I say climate because you can't do infrastructure without having a recognition of resilience and green technologies. So that's where we are there. Now, today, We again send sad condolences to the person who lost his or her life in Puerto Rico, others whose homes were damaged. We call upon the White House to stop its unlawful withholding of funds from Puerto Rico. We also, there are needs that need to be met. There has been a disaster designated, but the ongoing withholding of funds appropriated by Congress to Puerto Rico is illegal, and we call upon the administration to cease and desist that illegal activity. So what else do we have here? Maybe we'll just take some questions from all of you. Nancy? Yes.
You say that you need to know what the arena looks like
Yes.
in the Senate. How long are you prepared to hold on to the articles of impeachment if you don't get the answers you're looking for?
Well, it's interesting just to listen to what they say, because they may not. The other day, you probably heard the leader say, I'm glad to show you what it is when I'm ready. But we don't know when he's going to be glad to be ready to show it to us. So there is something that they will have. And then he says, well, we'll pass it once we get the articles. In the past few weeks, since we've had this, shall we say, impasse, because they won't reveal the terms of engagement, many things have been accomplished that are collateral benefit to the discussion. And they relate to, on December 20th, new emails showed that 91 minutes after Trump's phone call with the Ukrainian president, a top OMB aide asked DOD to hold off on sending military aid to the Ukraine, directly related to that call. On December 29th, was public revelations about Mulvaney's role in the delay of the aid, the effort of lawyers at OMB, DOJ, and White House to justify the delay, and the alarm that the delay caused within the administration, because everyone was not in agreement. Last Thursday, newly unredacted Pentagon emails exposed serious concerns by administration officials about the legality of the president's hold on the aid, aid to Ukraine. And just this week, Bolton announced that he would comply with a subpoena compelling his testimony. His lawyers have stated he has new relevant information. These and other of our investigation and our articles necessitate a fair trial with documents and witnesses. They don't want documents, the documentation. They don't want witnesses. They may want a dismissal, which is proof that they cannot clear the president of the wrongdoing that he has put forth.
So are you going to hold on to the articles indefinitely?
No, I'm not holding him indefinitely. I'll send them over when I'm ready. And that will probably be soon. I just, he said, if you don't send them over, I'm going to pass the Mexico-U.S. Canada trade agreement. Okay. But no, we want to see what they're willing to do and the manner in which they will do it. But we will not let them say, oh, this is just like Clinton, fair is fair. It's not. Documentation, witnesses, facts, truth. That's what they're afraid of.
Speaker Pelosi,
Yes.
The Democrats call him a clear and present danger to democracy.
Who are we talking about?
House Democrats in the impeachment, you call the president.
I thought you meant Mitch McConnell. Okay.
But shouldn't you move more expeditiously, given the fact that you raised this serious concern that the president poses to...
No, I think we should move smartly and strategically. Yes, Jack Chan.
This is an H-Con res.
Yes,
resolution.
a concurrent resolution,
Right.
yes.
There's been some criticism from both sides that this should be binding. I know there's some parliamentary questions about it being privileged over here. But why not make this with real teeth, to make this like an AUMF?
This is with real teeth. If you are familiar with the War Powers Act, and I'll get you the text, the War Powers Tax enables two approaches to go forward. One is a concurrent resolution, and it gives the procedure for that, which we will be following today, and it gives a path for concurrent for a H-Con resolution. we're taking this path because it does not require a statement by a signature of the President of the United States. This is a statement of the Congress of the United States, and I will not have that statement be diminished by whether the President will veto it or not.
Madam Speaker,
Your members have raised serious concerns about the timing of the strike against Soleimani, the administration's justification. You've been briefed. Do you think that the administration misled the American people about an imminent attack?
I think that it's very unfortunate that right now, because I was briefed in the Gang of Eight and I was briefed in the, what did he call it, demeaning and worst classified briefing that the Republican senators ever heard yesterday. So it's, at this point, in terms of what is in the public domain, difficult to address some of what they contended. However, I will say this, because I was informed by phone call, as I mentioned to you earlier, I think I did anyway, that when I was briefed by the Secretary of Defense and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs over the weekend, taking responsibility for the killing, that it was disdainful in terms of not consulting with Congress, dismissive. We held it closely, really. So if you want us to all join together, let us have a strategy that we work together on. I do not believe, in terms of what is in the public domain, that they have made the country safer by what they did. And that is what our responsibility is. We'll have more discussion of this on the floor today at some length. But it's real, again, as I go back to the Battle of the Bulge, pray for peace. We must avoid war. And the cavalier attitude of this administration, it's stunning. And the president to say, oh, I inform you by reading my tweets. No, that's not the relationship that our founders had in mind in the Constitution of the United States when they gave power to the president, to the White House, to do one thing in terms of our national security, and to the Congress to declare war and to allocate resources and the rest. So this is your question is an important one. We will have 2 hours of debate, an hour on the rule, 2 hours on the bill today to put forth some of the factual basis of the concern that we have. And let me just say this, because you hear the administration say, well, we were justified because the Office of Legal Counsel said. The Office of Legal Counsel is a tool of the President of the United States. That's who that is. So whatever the President wants to declare legal, his Office of Legal Counsel declares it so. So it's misleading to the public as to what the War Powers Act, Article 2 that gives the President certain powers, Article 1 that gives the Congress certain powers are. It's a very big issue now because it's nothing less than preventing war as we honor our first responsibility to protect the American people.
Madam Speaker,
Yes,
the briefers yesterday that came to the Senate, several people came out and said the briefers told them that putting out information debating the War Powers Act would empower Iran. The House floor is debating war powers around Iran. What do you say to the Trump administration if they're telling you that's empowering Iran?
I don't spend a whole lot of time telling them anything because I don't know what their basis of judgment is to receive information. However, I will say this. If they think that any statement they make is there to curtail public debate on a subject as serious as this, it just explains to you the seriousness of the situation that we are in. We will debate on the floor of the House. Now, we are not going on the floor talking about what we learned in the, and they said at the beginning, they said, even if you've read it in the newspaper, if you hear it in here, you can't talk about it. And then they proceed to tell us many things that we have read in the local metropolitan journals or seen on TV. But that's foolish. It's completely foolish. And as I say, we have no illusions about Iran, no illusions about Soleimani. He was a terrible person did bad things, but it's not about how bad they are. It's about how good we are, protecting the people in a way that prevents war and does not have us producing again and again generations of veterans who are suffering because of it. Let me just close by saying this. When we were there, and I've met many of these veterans at 70th anniversary of Normandy. When I met them there, I said, well, my uncle was in World War II close to the Battle of the Bulge. They said, well, we went there next. And these were so brave teenagers, mostly. They were 18, 19, some 17 years old. And when we talked to them this time, because deeper relationships over time, they said, I never wanted to kill anybody. I didn't want to kill the Germans. I was incapacitating them. I would shoot them in the leg or something. And then one of them told me, I killed somebody, and I found out later he was a doctor, and I've always carried that with me. I said, well, you were instructed to shoot him, because a superior said, you take him, I'll take him, And he said, well, I still never forget that. So we all would die for our country. We take pride in saying that. But to kill for our country is a pretty traumatic thing. So when we want to engage in these, whatever you want to call this that the president engaged in, we have to be really careful about how we endanger our men and women in uniform who courageously, patriotically put themselves out there to protect and defend. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Because the airstrike targeting General Soleimani happened in Iraq, is it time for the House to consider a broader AUMF? I know that's sort of the legal justification the administration has put forward with this airstrike. Is it time for Congress to get rid of the 2001-2002 AUMF?
For sure. Well, we did get rid of the AUMF of 2002, and it was in an appropriations bill, and it passed in a bipartisan way. And in the dark of night, the then Speaker Ryan just took it out. It was highly unusual. Highly unusual. They just went and took it out. I mean, that's ridiculous, but that's what he did. So Congress has already passed rejecting. After it passed both houses, he took it out before it was signed. So we will have that resolution coming up soon under leadership of Congresswoman Barbara Lee, whose wedding we observed today. And then the question is, what do we do about an AUMF? It's harder than you would think, because an AUMF, so who's president, a Democrat or Republican, how much power, confidence do you have in that person, regardless of party, to execute an AUMF? And the decisions that have to be made about AUMF, it's important to note, are what is the timing of it? This one is too long. It didn't have a date. It should have a date. Not one that couldn't be renewed, but nonetheless it should have a date. The timing, the geography. What are we talking about? This was to go into Iraq. It was used then to pursue al-Qaeda, different places, and here we are. And third, what is the scope? Are we talking about boots on the ground? Are we talking about air cover? What are we talking about in terms of scope? So timing, geography, and scope. When you have that debate, it's, well, I want the president to have as much power, or I want the president not to have as much power. So it's hard. It's harder than you would think, but we have to do it. And when we do it, we have to have it with enough time that is realistic militarily, but also not endless, so that we're in a situation that we're in now. So to your point, the argument would be made that putting the shoe on the other foot, if the United States had a high level, maybe the second most important person in the country, assassinated wherever, the United States might consider that an assault on our country, right? And the Iranians might as well, even though this took place at the Iraqi airport. And so it's foggy. There are those who think, well, it was in Iraq, so it counts. But it was an assault on Iran, so it shouldn't count. I don't think there's anybody who thinks that AUMF would apply in Iran. to your other point on it, though, it is it needs to be addressed, rewritten, because we have to have an authorization of use of military force specific to the danger that we are addressing. One last question, yes, ma'am.
You had mentioned the Clinton impeachment trial agreement, new witnesses, and documents. What other details specifically are we waiting to hear from Senator McConnell? And why not fully turn over these negotiations now to Senator Schumer?
Well, they are in the Senate hands. This is the Senate, and they have tried to have a bipartisan approach to how they would conduct the investigation as what are we calling it? The trial, conduct the trial. But feebly, the majority leader has said this is just like Clinton, except it isn't. It's exactly not like Clinton in that he won't do a bipartisan agreement on how to proceed. So that's very important. But it is not incidental to say, but for the documentation and the witnesses. Now, separate from all of that, under the House Senate rules of 1986, what is allowed for the presentation from the House is one person to speak. One person to speak. So are those the terms? Is that what we should be ready for? Or is there something else that they have in mind? It's one person to speak for the House and one person to speak for the White House. Did you know that? 1986. So is that the rule under which they're going? That all we want to know is what are the rules? It doesn't mean we have to agree to the rules or we have to like the rules. We just want to know what they are. So getting back to sports, because that's all we live, right? Football, college, high school, professional. Do we send in our team or do we have to send in special team as well as the team? Because we have to know what that trial is about.
Why not send the articles over and turn the whole negotiations over to Senator Schumer?
Yeah, they've had the negotiation. The senator has said he doesn't have to have witnesses and the rest. So that's, but we may send them over, but we have I'm not responsible to Mitch McConnell or anybody else except my members and the people who have worked so hard on this. Members and staff, patriotically, honoring the oath of office, the Constitution of the United States. And I will give them our best shot to find the truth for our bosses, the American people. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Are you going to the Niners game?
It would be my intention to go. I went to the one game in San Francisco. We watched all together the second game in Seattle. I have, unfortunately, responsibilities to save our country from peril. So this weekend, I have on my Democratic, wearing that hat of political leader this weekend. So my family will enjoy our season tickets at the 49er game. And then next week, get one game at a time. And then we'll see about
Baltimore,
the next
San Francisco Super Bowl.
yeah. Well, we had the Baltimore-San Francisco Super Bowl. And that was hard because I had been rooting for both teams all along, right? And again, going to the 49er games and watching the Baltimore games on TV right there at the stadium. So what happens is they both win. Nobody was in a more difficult situation than I, the mother of the coaches, brothers coaching the teams. And then you saw what happened at that game. But the D'Alessandros from Baltimore came all dressed in purple. And the Pelosis from San Francisco all came in red, and we had a lovely family reunion. This time, I hope that we'd get a similar result, that we'd have both teams in I already, because of my, shall we say, responsibilities to win the House for the Democrats and hopefully the Electoral College for the American people, I was scheduled to be in Florida that weekend. So I'm all set. One way or another.
Do you think Harry and Meghan will move to California?
Who knows? We're talking about Tom Brady. I mean, who knows? Who knows what happens with all this? But isn't it interesting? And it's wonderful because it's so unifying. You know, everybody, whatever your politics or whatever, forget it. It's about the team. And we all like to say, and we all believe that we're all Team USA. So however it turns out. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
So excited.
Yeah, I'm here. You got me?
Yep. Hey, Casey, they might be pretty quick on the turnaround.
Yes. Hello. Yes. Can you hear me?
Now let's first talk about the impeachment. When you sit and read and listen to lawmakers in Speaker Pelosi's own party, have no idea what she is doing. Senator Feinstein, the senator from California, my senator and Speaker Pelosi's senator, but she's even more. She's the hometown senator for Nancy Pelosi. She said, the longer it goes on, the less urgent it becomes. So if it's serious and urgent, send them over. If it is not, don't send it over. Chairman Adam Smith, Speaker Pelosi's own chairman on armed services, at 9:35 this morning, he said, it is time for Speaker Pelosi to send the articles of impeachment to the Senate. I understand what the Speaker is trying to do, but at the end of the day, just like we control it in the House, Mitch McConnell controls it in the Senate. Or Congressman Jamie Raskin, a member of the House Judiciary, but also the member who was selected to represent impeachment inside the Rules Committee. He said, there can't be an indefinite delay. Obviously, there's a constitutional and political clock ticking at this point. We are eager to see that things move forward. But I just listened to Speaker Pelosi say she wasn't moving them yet. I'm not sure if she's just embarrassed of the work that's being done or if she lied to us about being urgent. On Iran, yesterday the president confirmed he was focused on de-escalation and defending the American people. Instead of working with the administration to make America stronger, Democrats are working against us to make us weaker. Make no mistake, today's war powers resolution cannot become law. By definition, it will never be sent to the president, and it will never limit his constitutional authority to defend the American people. It is a concurrent resolution. This is the type of resolution that we invite the soapbox derby to the Capitol. This is a meaningless vote that only sends the wrong message that the House Democrats would rather stand with the socialist base than stand against Iran. Now, I listened to Speaker Pelosi in a question that Chad asked her about the concurrent resolution. And I want to clear up because I believe most of that was fake news. Contrary to what the Speaker said, the resolution before the House is non-binding. It does not have the force of law. The Supreme Court found that in Chanda case, the concurrent resolutions are unconstitutional as a means to limit the executive branch. For someone that I hear and claim so deeply about the Constitution, I think our Speaker needs to brush up actually on her facts. Let's open it up for questions. Yes, sir.
Mr. Leader, the Speaker continued to say today that she needs to see more from Senator McConnell on what the trial will look like before she sends the articles. Why is that an unreasonable request? Why shouldn't Leader McConnell just come out and show what the rules of this proceeding are before she sends the articles?
Did she say that with a straight face? You sat through this impeachment. You watched the Speaker of the House deny any rules going forward in the House. You watched the Speaker of the House change every history we have when it comes to impeachment. We had a history about how we dealt with Clinton and how we dealt with Nixon in a fair process. She changed all that so it could not become fair. She took it out of the judiciary and put it into the Intel Committee, where they couldn't focus on other things that are going around the world, only focus on impeachment. She denied the own members the ability to ask questions, and only for the first 45 minutes that the chair and someone not even elected to Congress had the power to ask questions. She denied the minority to be able to have witnesses. She denied the accused, the president, to even have legal counsel. And she has the gall to say she wants to determine what happens in the Senate? Maybe she's more concerned that her case is so weak. I've listened to Mitch McConnell, who, you know what, stays with the fair process that President Clinton had. He said he would move forward with that. The Speaker does not have the power to continue to hold. This is something that is passed in the House and has constitutionally has to move to the Senate. She told us it was urgent, is why we had to move so quickly. And now she thinks she has the power of the Senate? Again, I wish she would read the Constitution and understand what power she has and what she does not have.
Do you support the Republican senators who are pushing to start the trial without the articles?
You know what? I support the Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein, who said The longer it goes on, the less urgent it becomes. So if it is serious and urgent, send them over. If it is not, don't send it over. So in the answer to Senator Feinstein, I guess the Speaker is saying, I guess it's not too important. Why did you waste an entire majority on trying to impeach a president and then hold the papers? Or what about her own committee chairman, Adam Smith, who said it is time? The only person who does not believe it's time is the Speaker, and I do not know why. Maybe the case is too weak. Yes.
Mr. Leader, on Iran,
Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it. The Senators Mike Lee and Rand Paul came out of yesterday's briefing with the administration saying that they encouraged them not to have a debate on war powers. They came out calling this un-American and are siding with Democrats, Tim Kaine, and their war powers resolution. Do you think it's a debate worth having around war powers? Why would you say this debate wouldn't be worth having?
Well, first of all, they're lying to the American public by a concurrent resolution. It has no power. It has no power whatsoever. It's equivalent to when we invite the soapbox derby to the Capitol Hill. So the Speaker just stood before you and either does not know the meaning of the Constitution or she lied to you. I'm not sure which one it is. The idea that they want to curb the ability of the president to react when more than 600 Americans have been killed, when our embassy has been attacked, when an American was killed and that was a red line.
But do you think
When
Congress
did
should
you
be
ever-
restricted from debating this?
No, we can gladly debate it. I'd love to debate it. But the idea of the timing and what does it send to the rest of the world? I never thought there would be a moment in time that the Speaker of the House of Representatives would actually be defending Soleimani. The idea of this individual in this moment in time, that they would be defending Iran, that somehow they did not escalate this. When a president stood before the world and the country yesterday about de-escalating, what do you say to all the Gold Star families? Did you listen to what the Speaker just said? Soleimani was a bad person, but. There is no but. He's a bad person because he killed American soldiers. He's a bad person because he led us against the embassy. He's a bad person because he went after the tankers. He's a bad person because he bombed the refinery. He's a bad person because he was planning more against Americans. The president was right in his actions, and we are safer today for it. I think that part of what the Democrats are doing today is wrong. And in the current information that I just heard coming out about the airliner and not supplying the black box, I think the Democrats should pause and have the information, if it was what is being said is true right now, of why that airliner went down. Why would you defend Iran and not protect America?
Thank you. Is there a risk for Republicans if the Senate, regardless of what rules they operate under for a Senate trial, taking care of this too quickly, being perceived as moving too expeditiously once it does get over there, that's danger for Republicans because it looks as though Republicans writ large are going overboard to defend the president?
Not at all. That we're moving too quickly.
I'm saying if the Senate, if they don't, give this 5-6 weeks at least, like they did with President Clinton in 1999, if that's the model that Mitch McConnell wants to adhere to.
Well, there was no time set when you went and did Clinton. I mean, the Senate has the right to sit down and look at the facts. This is different because this is, according to Jonathan Turley, a constitutional lawyer, which I think is probably the one who's most respected in this country, who is a Democrat, who did not vote for the president. He said it was the fastest, thinnest impeachment in the history of America. He said the only abuse of power would be actually moving forward on the Democrats if they move forward with this impeachment. So I'm sorry if this is so weak. And when I listened to the Speaker said she's really concerned about bipartisanship. Yeah, she said that last year in March, why impeachment could not move forward. But when impeachment moved forward, the only bipartisan vote was no. So with her own rules of how to move forward, she broke them. She broke the history of how we did it in the House when it came to fairness. And now she wants to impose something upon the Senate that she would not use herself. I can't imagine how she does that with a straight face. I couldn't imagine you not questioning her on it as well.
Speaker McCarthy.
Yes.
This past week, an attorney for Lev Parnas tweeted out 2 pictures with you and his client. One of them had you and his client and Vice President Pence. In response to those tweets by Lev Parnas' attorney, I was hoping you could clarify what your relationship is to Mr. Parnas and what you've done with the money that he donated to you.
Thank you for that really imposing question. I guess I met him one time, and he came to an event and took a picture with
What was
me.
the event?
Not quite sure. I'd have to look at the picture to see what it is. I do events every single day, and I do pictures with thousands of people all the time. And the money, when we found out later that he donated to campaign, we donated it away to charity. Any other questions, yes?
Just to clarify something you just
Please.
said, you said that the speaker was defending Soleimani. Do you really believe that she is defending one of the leaders of Iran, who's been an enemy against the United States, rather than raising concerns about the killing of him and the ramifications that could have on U.S. interests?
I sit in Gang of 8 meetings, and I sat in the classified meeting. It was justified. And anybody who sat in there knows it. Anytime I hear a Democrat talk about him and say he was bad, but then use the word but, yes, I question it. There is no but when it comes to Soleimani. He was bad because, not but. He was bad because he killed more than 600 American soldiers. He was bad because of the attacks and the American citizens he killed. He was bad because he went after our embassy. He was bad because he was planning to kill more Americans. So no, I never use the word but when I refer to him, and I don't think any other American should either. And if they do, I'll question them on it as well. Thank you very much.
There are a lot of bad people that the